Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about 2025 interior design styles. Which ones were in, which ones are out. Some of these I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of these are wishful thinking probably on my part, where I'm just hoping things are out, but they're probably not quite done with them quite yet. But that's, you decide. Wishful thinking or reality, I don't know. But I'm also gonna link here and just show you some of the design styles in a previous video that I did about a year and a half ago, where I talked about something similar of which ones were in and out then. The ones that are out are still out, okay? So if you don't see them on this list and they're here, they're still out. They're not gonna be in this video because they're just now super out, okay? So with that in mind, let's get going. Okay, first up on my list is gonna be contemporary arts and crafts. This is my favorite interior design style of the moment, and I really love it. I've seen in the comments that people think that I don't give it enough due because it is a beautiful interior design style. It honestly is a timeless style. It's very much born traditionally. It's sort of born, you know, in the UK. It's got a very like English sort of crafted look. Everything was very traditional. There's a lot of detail. There was a lot of craft, honestly. People were creating, you know, beautiful pieces, whether it be furniture or detailing in their home, wood paneling, what have you. It kind of feels a little bit like Lord of the Rings, to be honest. It looks a little bit like the Shire. Like it's got that sort of Hobbit, sort of Bilbo Baggins house sort of vibe to it, in my opinion. And it's a beautiful timeless style. Contemporary arts and crafts is a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of bit more streamlined than traditional sort of arts and crafts that has been around for a very long time. So this is gorgeous. We're seeing lots of detailing, but again, it's a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more sleek, cleaner lines than what we had seen previously, right? But lots of attention to detail still, lots of beautiful materials, lots of use of wood. It's very contemporary, so oftentimes you'll see the same wood tones being used over and over again, so less eclectic than perhaps we've seen in the past. So you might pick, you know, white oak, or you might pick, you know, walnut, or you might pick red oak, or you might pick whatever, and then you're just gonna repeat that sort of over and over again in the space. That's very common in contemporary design. It creates something that looks really uniform. It looks really sleek and, you know, fits more of a contemporary space than something that's gonna read a little bit more eclectic if you've got lots of different wood tones that are happening in the space. Not to say you can't do it, just citing that that's a little bit more contemporary. So I would say that this style is really popular right now. You're seeing this in really gorgeous, well-designed spaces, lots of designer spaces. A lot of architects are choosing to use this style. I see this a lot, you know, in Australian design, which is really, in my opinion, leading contemporary design globally right now. Like I would say, I love Australian design. I think it's gorgeous. And it's really sort of leading what contemporary means in 2025. And I think it has done for several years. I love Australia. I need to go there. Hi Aussies, I love you. And I want to come there and can I just knock on your door and come into your spaces? That would be really super great. I'll just come into your homes if that would be lovely. I'm seeing this a lot, this sort of design style being used there in some of the architects designed homes that are being done there. I think it's really beautiful. It's timeless. It feels a little bit more current than your traditional arts and crafts, hence the contemporary part of the contemporary arts and craft design style. And I think this is really beautiful. I love this style. It's very 2025, and I think it's really beautiful. And I love to see it, and I hope we see a lot more of it in the future. Okay, so what is out? Out is, I'm gonna have to say, extreme minimalism. So this is sort of the everything is stark white, everything is very minimal, and there is an absence of stuff. There's an absence of any ornamentation. The lines are straight lines, okay? There's not a whole lot going on here. It's very simple, it's very basic. And I will say this, because I can already hear the minimalists watching this video outraged at the fact that their minimalism is out. Minimalism and it's just a pendulum. It just keeps swinging back and forth. And right now, maximalism's winning, okay? But it'll switch back again, don't you worry. But I think what's particularly out is some of these sort of museum curated spaces. These ones that are just everything is white, and maybe you might have cream or maybe a beige if you're getting crazy. But for the most part, everything is really simple and basic and lacks any sort of functional elements that make a home actually livable for a lot of people. And that is, I think, ultimately why this is so out. Number one, it's a snooze fest. These spaces are not inspiring. They're not necessarily even relaxing. They just sort of feel a little insane asylum for me. And therefore, that doesn't feel relaxing to me. This is just not really the vibe that I personally try to create. It's not very comfortable. And it's also, let's be honest, it's not practical for how most people live, right? This might be how Kim Kardashian lives, but she's not how most people live. So this type of extreme minimalism, I think, is honestly, like, in a weird way, it doesn't have sort of like a virtue signaling kind of like property to it. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, I don't need anything because I'm this sort of extreme minimalist. I don't know. It sort of feels like people wear their minimalism like a badge of honor. And sometimes it's like, you know, you can have stuff, like you can have nice things. Like you can have stuff in your home that makes it comfortable and livable and enjoyable to actually be in. So I think people wised up that this style was really boring, and there's only so many things things you can do in this style that actually to make it at all even remotely interesting. So definitely, you know, there are still lots of minimalist styles that are out there that are really popular. There's a lot of minimalist spaces, and minimalism at its core really is just about editing. It's not about necessarily having zero things. It's just about, I think, really editing what you have to only have what you need, and not necessarily, you know, not having anything that's kind of over and above that and anything superfluous that you don't actually really need, right? That's really, minimalism is less about having no stuff, which is what people think it is, and it's actually just more about being really curated in sort of what you choose to bring in your home. It's the thought process that matters more than necessarily the end result. That's what I think anyway, in terms of minimalism. But this form of extreme, I don't have to live with anything because look at me, I just live with like a piece of wood on the floor and call that a table. Like that type of minimalism, she's gone, she's dead, she's done. We're gonna leave it in the past, you know, leave that to Kim and we're good to go. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be modern cottagecore is in. I'm not always thrilled about it, but it is, right? People like the homey, cottagey mushrooms and the it just feels like, you know, we got checkered tea towels and we just have like a little cute little throw in like a little pattern of some sort. Like you got a gingham pattern. I don't know, like people just love this stuff. They love the folksy, they love the little ruffles in the bottom. Like it just makes them feel like they're in a cottage and it's, I don't know, it's Anna Green Gables and they're just sitting in PEI, which is beautiful, by the way. If you go to PEI, you should. It's a beautiful province. You should check it out. It is wonderful. The whole province, by the way, runs on Anna Green Gables tourism. I found when I went there because I had never read the book. Anyway, I digress. So people want to live their Anna Green Gables fantasy. They want to go and live in PEI and live on a farm, and that's fine. But this style is still very popular, but I would still say that there is a certain modern sensibility that is being brought a little bit into this style, which I think was helpful because it's not actually reality for people to live on a farm. I worry this is the new modern farmhouse. I'm just gonna say it. I worry that this is people not understanding the context of some of these styles and taking these styles and copy pasting them into places that they probably shouldn't. But that's not what this list is about. This is about what's in, and people love what's in. And so you know what? This is what people are doing. I personally don't love this style. I think there's some cute folksiness that you can sort of bring in that's sort of cute and fun, and if people love it, that's fantastic. But I do think sometimes context matters, and sometimes these spaces lacks context, in my opinion. But it is still an in style. People are loving these little folksy elements. They're liking this sort of simple life that they're maybe able to kind of evoke in their spaces, and it does feel very cute and cottagey, and that's fine. This is also like a little bit more feminine, I would say, than contemporary arts and crafts that we looked at before. You know, there are, I think, some overlap in these two styles a little bit, but this one leads a little bit more into some, I don't want to say farmhouse, but I kind of want to say farmhouse, but we'll say cottage sort of elements that are not necessarily present in contemporary arts and crafts, which is a little bit more about sort of wood detailing, a little bit less about like ruffles and patterns. Okay, and next on my list is going to be out, and that is extreme maximalism. So we talked about extreme minimalism. That is out. You know what is also out? Extreme maximalism. Because 2022, y'all lost your damn minds. And a lot of people thought that it was super fun to overstuff their spaces with so much pattern that don't belong together in the same room, not even in the same neighborhood, to be honest with you. And they're just like, it's obscene. And people were going crazy with all this stuff, and they were putting so much stuff. There was so much stuff on, it was overstuffing. It was, how do I go to a thrift store and I'll take it all and just throw it all into their sustainable shopping bag, bring it home and throw it on the walls and call it maximalism. This was very bright, very colorful, lots of pattern, lots of things, lots of knickknacks, a lot of stuff to express your personality, but it was so heavy and so overwhelming that it literally fell under its own weight. It had so much stuff that was packed full in those spaces that the style just collapsed in on itself, which, you know, it does tend to happen. You can sort of predict trends sometimes because people sort of see the pendulum swing. And extreme maximalism is out. Now, does that mean that maximalism in general is out? No. I think maximalism is here to stay for a while. People don't want to go back to those really stark white sort of minimalist spaces that we've had, and they're looking for lots of color, and they are looking for pattern, and they are looking for art, and they are looking to display their things that they love, and that's a wonderful thing. And so people are, you know, not being so strict in terms of what they bring in their home, and they're having a lot of fun with maximalism, but some of these were just way too much. As I called it a cacophony of color before, and it is, even though someone did point out in the comment section, I see you, the cacophony does mean sound and not color, but I just like the word, so I'm just gonna use it incorrectly forever and ever. Thank you very much. So it is a cacophony of color, and I stand by that statement because it's a lot. It's a lot, and it was a quick death too, by the way. I think it was really, maximalism, we hardly knew ye. You came in 2022, you died in 2024, or at least the extreme version. version. And I'm seeing that these spaces are starting to look really, really dated because they always were silly. They were silly when they started and they're silly now, and now they're silly and dated. So I hope you know, good luck basically if you created one of these spaces. But honestly, you didn't. Like nobody did this. Everybody passed this trend by because they all knew it was stupid. So I don't think anybody actually really did this in their home. I think it was just photographed for Dwell magazine and then, you know, send it all to the thrift store. So maximalism, yes, is here. Extreme, no. Okay, next on my list is going to be Art Deco. Now I know Art Deco made it in my list a year and a half ago of design styles that are in, and it's because it's still in, because it's still great, right? It's the, like, we needed Art Deco. Like, we needed it in our lives, and it's because it was very bold, very like colorful. It was like geometric. It was very rich. It was cool materials that we weren't really seeing in a while, and it was just a really fun, elegant, beautiful, timeless design style. Love Art Deco. Again, I started this video by saying, is this list biased? Yes, it is. Yes, it is totally biased. 100% it is. Yes, I do read the tea leaves of what I think people are doing, but there is some wishful thinking here, and I do still think that Art Deco is super trendy and super cool. I think it's just a beautiful style. I think that what could kill Art Deco, because, you know, people, they tend to, we take these things and then we run with them and then we go too hard and then we take it too hard and then it doesn't work anymore and then it dies because it gets crushed under its own weight. Please see Extreme Maximalism. We took it too far. The issue that people have, I think, with Art Deco, and I mentioned this in my Art Deco video like, what, 3 years ago or whatever, is that sometimes people like want the look of Art Deco, but they don't understand that so much of Art Deco like is expensive. It's kind of like, it's meant to be an elegant, luxurious style because of the Roaring 20. It's meant to be that. And so it's not an easy look all the time to fake because yes, you can get some like Art Deco inspired wallpapers and that could be really cost effective. And like, I don't want to tell people they can't have fun with the style just because they can't afford it, because that's elitist, but more like have fun with it. Yes. But just recognize that like, if it's got like a bunch of feathers on it and it came from Home Goods, it's like, yeah, is it Art Deco? Is it, or is it glam and it's 2016? And that's when you got to be really careful because you don't want to go there. So, you know, just because you throw in a mirrored bookcase or like with a big feather lamp on top does not necessarily make it Art Deco. And I think sometimes that's the concern I have with this one, is people are going to take it too far. And then my poor little Art Deco is going to look cheap and gaudy. And that's not what I'm looking for. So I love Art Deco. I think it's a gorgeous, timeless, beautiful style. I did an entire video on it. Go check it out. And it's really, really cool. And I still see it. Retailers like CB2 are still doing a lot of their stuff is very inspired by Art Deco, right? I'm still seeing in film and TV, like there's certain patterns that you're just seeing over and over again, and they're very Art Deco inspired patterns, and they're being used over and over. These gorgeous geometrics that are being used, really rich and interesting colors, those jewel tones, right? They're bright, they're bold, they're in your face, which again speaks to a lot of the colors that people are loving right now because they're kind of tired of the bland and the beige and the cream and, you know, whatever, the Kim Kardashianification of design that we saw. And so I get it, like people are having fun with it, and that's really cool. Just don't stick feathers on things is all I'm asking. Okay, next up is gonna be out, and that's gonna be goofy postmodern. I think that postmodern is fun, and I think postmodern can be really cool and creative, and that's when it's at its best, right? Because modern design is like function first, right? Form follows function, right? So okay, so what are we gonna do? First, let's design what it's supposed to do, and then we'll go from in terms of what it's gonna look like, right? So that's like the modern approach to design, you know, or the Bauhaus people, like, we get it. Like that's the modern, and it was really, and it's awesome, and it's beautiful, and it's timeless, and it's wonderful. And then postmodern was like, let's just forget all the rules and make something weird. And that was also really cool because it kind of got us out of that creative maybe rut. You know what I mean? Like it kind of busts through and go like, let's create something really new and interesting. That's fun. But sometimes the new and interesting, it doesn't always work, honey. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's creative and new and cool and weird and fun, and like we needed to break the mold because everybody had the same sofa, you know? We all had the same sofa from West Elm, and then we broke out something new and we're like, oh my God, look at this, isn't this so cool? It's so weird, it's so interesting. And then that's cool, and that's when postmodern's at its best. And then sometimes postmodern at its worst is just silly and stupid, and it ought not to be designed that way because it's stupid. And that sometimes happens a lot with postmodern. And that's the really goofy stuff. And I think the really goofy stuff, the like weird DIY DIYs, the Urban Outfitters stuff, I think a lot of those really bold, colorful, silly, childish things are on the way out. I think that people, again, wishful thinking, absolutely. But I do think that sanity will prevail and people will realize that this stuff isn't a good idea. Do you know what I mean? It's like the faux mirrors. Remember I made fun of the faux mirrors when people were doing that 2 years ago? It's like that stuff. It's like maybe we don't. Like maybe we don't do that. Maybe just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? But you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't do it just because you can. I don't think it makes sense. And so a lot of the really goofy stuff I think is out, and I think we're ready to say goodbye to it. And I think that if you're finally getting into a lot of this weird stuff in 2025, I don't think it's gonna be with us for that much longer. Do I think bold, interesting design is here to stay? Yes, I do think that there is some really cool stuff that we did need to break through, some of the same old mid-century modern pieces we've had before. And I do think it's nice to see people creatively having fun, but I do think there's stupid for the sake of stupid, and that stuff needs to go. And I think it's definitely feeling like I'm not alone on that, and it's on its way out for 2025. Okay, next up on my list is going to be Victorian style, this sort of new Victorian, new traditional sort of space. I think that this is a really beautiful style. It's a very timeless style. I do think people will really have a lot of fun with this one in 2025, as they already kind of have been. Now, I will say out of the different sort of nod to traditional, like we've seen in a lot of the styles so far that I've talked about that are in, Victorian to me feels the most formal. And that's one thing I always think that people should be really mindful of when they're creating this a space using this style, is it's a very formal style, right? So seats are gonna be very upfront. They're not gonna be loungy. This is not your place to throw in your Togo sofa, okay? It's gonna be very formal. Everything's gonna be sitting upright. We're all gonna have great posture, you know what I mean? Like we're gonna be shoulders back, head, you know, that's the vibe of Victorian, right? We're thinking Buckingham Palace, we're thinking like that's where we're at here. I will say that there are some pieces here that might read a little bit more formal, and I do think there is some space to maybe mix in some modern lighting here so that, or something so that it doesn't quite feel so stuffy. But we're talking lots of moldings. We're talking panel moldings, crown moldings. We're talking fancy baseboards. We're talking chair rails. We're talking the types of classic furniture pieces, right? The Louis, you got the Queen Anne, you got all the classic sort of furniture pieces being used regularly in your living room, whatever. Lots of those classic patterns that people have seen many, many times before, right? Tapestries, little vases that you get, different pieces that sort of feel very elegant. It feels very formal. It feels very traditional. That style is very popular. Now, I will say that I do think that a lot of people may be using a little bit, as I said, some modern sensibility sort of brought into this style, I think is how to perfect it so that it feels very current for 2025 and doesn't feel like you've just recreated Buckingham Palace, right? So the best way to do that is to think of, you know, some ways, like again, something like lighting or maybe some of your decor pieces where you can start to mix in wallpapers, even mix in some more modern pieces that are going to make sense for your particular space, so it doesn't quite read as sort of stuff stuck in the 17th century. So that's personally what I would sort of recommend, is that's kind of what I see as being trending right now, is mixing in some maybe modern art or lighting or something to freshen it up and make it feel a little bit more current. Even some of the color choices, right? Not always feeling so dark and so heavy as we had seen before in sort of your classic sort of traditional, but instead bringing that forward into something that makes a little bit more sense for 2025. Because just because you might like the look of something really formal and elegant might not necessarily be how you want to live all the time. So blending a little bit of those sort of modern into that style, I think is going to be really popular going forward. Okay, so last one on my list is going to be Shabby Chic. Shabby Chic, it's shabby, I'm not sure it's chic. Definitely not really anymore. This is the style that refuses to die. It like was in the 90s and it was in the 2010s, and it's arguably like tangentially related to sort of its modern farmhouse. There's some overlap there. I almost put in my video a year and a half ago, but I chose not to. I think because I went after farmhouse again for the umpteenth time. Listen, Shabby Chic, I still see it. And that's why it's on this list, because I still see it around a lot. And I think it's looking very, very dated. And I'm here to stop you because there are some still very fancy, very expensive stores that are still selling lots of Shabby Chic items and selling them at a premium. And they're just not really it anymore. In my opinion, this style is, as I said, it's kind of a little bit related to the farmhouse. It's everything distressed. When I think of Shabby Chic, I think of like your little ruffly things. I think of like that style that feels very like 2010s, and even was still popular maybe even at the beginning of the 2020s, right? Where you had like, everything was white, everything was cream, everything, all the metal of choice was brass, like brushed gold or brass, everything was brass. and with this cream and white and everything. And then everything was like distressed and felt a little farmhousey, like sort of made sense to be kind of, and if you had any color, it was like a blue and white checked ruffle skirted couch or, you know, pillow or something, you know what I mean? Like that was kind of it. That was sort of, you know, this like blue and white checkered pattern was kind of like all you saw. Other than that, everything else was white, and gold because you had the brass and things. Ugh. I just think that this particular style is looking incredibly dated because, again, it made one of the mistakes that so many design styles do, which is that they don't take into account the context in which they are sort of operating. So if you're in a house that's like a builder grade, you know, suburban house or whatever, oftentimes these sort of farmhousey elements don't really make a whole ton of sense. Now, if you live on a farm, great, then I guess you can sort of do what you want. I still wouldn't encourage this style because that's just me, because I don't like it. But if you love it and you live in a farm, then you just go to town. But if you're living in like an apartment and you're making everything shabby chic, I just don't know if it necessarily really works. I think that it feels very Kelly Clarkson Wayfair collection to me, and I don't really love that. Although I love Kelly Clarkson, as you all know, we love her, but we don't love her collection. And so a lot of it feels very Wayfair and very HomeSense, but again, I see a lot of really expensive retailers still selling these things all the time in their shops, and I don't think it's in anymore. I think people have moved on. I feel like a lot more color is being used, and the woods are like beautifully finished and not painted and then rubbed with sandpaper to make them look like they're 300 years old. Do you know that's just not the direction that contemporary design is moving? Of course, there's all these postmodern spaces backing off on some of the goofy things, a lot of things being maximal, lots more color. None of these are represented in this style. This is just a very white, sort of in a very elegant, beautiful cabin that's been preserved in the woods for 300 years, but also like miraculously looks amazing and beautiful and makes sense for a modern home. Like, I just don't really like this style very much. I don't see it as being very current, and I don't think this is a style that is gonna last. I mean, it's already dead, in my opinion. It's already looking pretty dated. So if you love it, as always, put it in your home. That's fine. You can do what you want there. I don't live there. I don't know you. Like, I don't go to your home, right? So as always, you can do what you want. But in my opinion, this style is left in 2025. Honestly, it was left in 2023. I'm just being generous. Okay, so that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to the one that I did a year and a half ago, because those were the styles that are out then. They're still out now, just so you know. And you can also get a feel for what the styles were in a year and a half ago. And I think you will still see echoes of that happening here in today in contemporary design. So thank you all. I'll see you all in that video, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.